Well, you know, there's less pressure in baseball to get in and get out because nothing happens until the baseball is thrown. And normally there's 30 plus seconds in between every pitch. And so the color analyst, basically the guy that I work with now more than anybody is Jeff Brantley, who's a former pitcher in the big leagues and who knows pitching better than anybody I've ever been around. And, you know, it's a very casual, very informal approach in baseball as opposed to football or as opposed to basketball. But I agree 100% with what Mick said. I used to do a lot of basketball on television. When I worked with a guy for the first time, the first thing I would say to him is, you're the star of this broadcast. You can't talk enough, because if you know what you're talking about and you can do it concisely and cogently, you make both of us look good. Don't worry about me, because all I'm doing is saying who's got the ball and the shots made, and now you're in the spotlight. But in radio, the play-by-play guy's a guy. I mean, you know, you're the eyes and ears of the people listening on the radio. But I've been blessed because I work with great people. I've never had a problem working with anybody. I worked with a guy, Joe Nuxhall, for 31 years. It's the longest radio duo in the history of Major League Baseball play-by-play sports. It's a tough job. I really think in many cases the play-by-play job's the easiest job of the two. I agree with what Stan says. What the hell is the sense in having you here if you're going to repeat what I just told people? That doesn't make any sense. You've got to be able to tell them something different, and if you've got a guy that can do that, then you're blessed, and again, it makes you look better.
Important also, correct me if I'm wrong, for a play-by-play guy to set up the color man.
Oh, no question about that. I mean, and again, especially I think, again, it's easier in baseball than it is in football and basketball, but you do have to have that kind of camaraderie and that kind of togetherness with the guy you work with all the time. And after a while, if it's the same guy, you can stop a sentence in the middle of it, and he knows you so well he can finish that sentence.
It's great to have a color analyst that played the game too, because like with Eugene Robinson on the Panthers radio network, I can look at Eugene and I can stay on thick ice, and I can get Eugene in a lot of trouble by saying, Eugene, what do you think? If you were the coach, what would you do about Jake Delhomme? Or how would you handle the Julius Pepper situation? Or why do you think Steve Smith dropped that ball? So he's got the pedigree, he's got the resume. That's what we pay him to do, is answer tough questions like that in some cases.
All right, we are more than halfway through. I'm out of good questions, so we're going to open it up to the audience. If any of you out there have any questions for any of the four panelists up here, please just stand up and shout it out. And I know you guys have some questions. Sir.
Is it easier to call a college game than it is the professional games with, I guess, the money input in professional sports nowadays?
Well, you don't even think about the money. I've never been critical of a player because of how much money he makes. I judge a player on his ability to play the game on a given day, whether it's good or bad. But as I said, I have a tendency to come down harder on professional athletes than I would ever do a college or a high school kid. I mean, heck, they're not getting paid for it. But you can't allow money to cloud your opinion about a guy's performance. That should have nothing to do with anything that any opinion you express about a player, good or bad.
Anybody else on the panel want to weigh in?
You want me to weigh in? I don't weigh a lot.
You've done both.
I'll weigh in on a little bit. What's your name, sir? What's your first name? Jeff. Jeff. Hey, Jeff. I like where Marty was going with that. I was just thinking back to a minor league game. When I was at the AAA, the main guides were playing the Columbus Clippers, and we had an outfielder named Kevin Ward. It's a tight game, late inning. Easy fly ball to left. Kevin Ward settles under it, and he looks up into the lights, and he's waiting, and he's waiting. He's in position, and then his arms drop to his sides, and his jaw drops wide open, slack, and he does nothing. And the ball hits right in front of him, almost hits him in the head. The ball drops right in front of him. He finally picks it up, 2-run score, and we lose the game. And on the radio, I'm thinking, okay, this is a paid professional athlete. I'm kind of irritated because I was a young announcer then. He's cost me the opportunity to broadcast a victory. That's stupid, I know. But I was a little bit hard on him on the radio. I said, you've got to try harder than that if you're a AAA left fielder. Locker room, I went to him after the game. I said, Kevin, look, I got to tell you, man, I was a little bit rough on you on that play. What happened? He goes, Mick, it was the wildest thing. I was under the ball. I was looking up. I saw it. And I had my mouth open, and a moth about the size of a credit card flew in my mouth and hit the back of my throat, and then I froze. The point of my story is, I'm not really sure what. Something along the lines of, there's always a story within the story, whether it's pro or college. But I do want to tell you this. I had the same feeling of excitement broadcasting the Gaston County Shrine 100 car race, or amateur boxing in the junior high school gym, high school football. Get this, I get chills right now even just thinking about getting ready to do a game like that. It's really the same. I think guys would agree, whether you're doing a Final Four, a World Series game, an NFC Championship game, or representing these young men that are young playing youth ball. It's still the same. It's that same feeling of excitement, passion we all get, college or pro.
I want to jump in on top of something that Mick just said, because I know Dennis Davidson is here, the athletic director at Catawba, and I've known Dennis forever. Used to do Carson Newman games back in the early 80s, and I'm at Wake Forest right now, which obviously is an ACC school. I've been at Marshall and was at Marshall at a great time when they won the national championship, their first time in football, and we all know the Marshall story, and that was kind of they'd come from the ashes of that horrible plane crash in 1970 and won that national championship my first year. Got to experience that, and Billy the Kid Donovan was at Marshall coaching basketball when I was there. But some of the best ball games that I've ever seen were maybe right over here between Carson Newman and Catawba, or down the road in Burlington, Carson Newman and Elon, or some of the playoff games that Carson Newman was a part of when they won 5 national titles when I was there. And to me, I think for us to be an effective broadcaster, it's about the game. It's about baseball. It's not the fact necessarily that it's the Reds and the Pirates. It's baseball. And it's football or it's basketball, whatever the sport is. And that's what still, for me, gives me the charge. It's not, my first year at Wake was Tim Duncan's senior year. I thought that was pretty cool, but once the ball goes up, it's basketball. It's not necessarily Tim Duncan out there. It's the game and how the game is played. And I was at Carson Newman 12 years before I even thought about going to anywhere else. And I guarantee you I could still be there now and have just as much fun and enjoy what I do for a living just as much if I were back in Jefferson City.
I enjoy on the level that you're talking about. I've been doing it for a long time here, and it's just as important to those kids, and it's just as important to those fans. There may not be as many of them and not on as big a scale, but it's the same thrill for them. It's you'll hear people, I know I run into people all the time saying, what about that game last night? And why did this happen? And it's the excitement. Every game, like you're talking about, has the same significance to a certain extent. You might, like when I do a state championship game for high school, it's amazing how much it means to those kids and those coaches and this community. And that's something that I get into, and I enjoy this level on that end.
I think no matter what level, there's that connection. I think that's the term that's always used and is true to the community.